Welcome to Table Talk 9.5. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Email us at lateafternoongaming@gmail.com. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Leave us a review. Blah, blah, blah. Reddit, YouTube, or Instagram. Blah, blah, blah. Enjoy.
All right. Welcome to Table Talk.
Yep, and this is Table Talk 9.5.
Listeners, just so you know, we're moving into a premium setup where if you pay $10 a month, you get all the sessions, but if you don't, you only get every other session.
Oh, wow, that's a pretty rough model, honestly. Yeah.
When the recaps only cover like...
Oh, you only get recaps if you're premium.
Right, yeah. You just have to guess otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I wonder what like the worst possible freemium model is. You know what I mean? That's pretty bad.
You get all the same episodes, but if you go for premium, you get a better thumbnail.
But so that's like getting low value. I mean, like the most exploitative, like the most.
I would say like a pay per character. Like if you the free model, one of us gets randomly selected, and you just get that audio. But then if you pay more, you get two people.
There we go.
Yeah. So I have.
But it's whoever tells the funniest jokes, and so you just get a bunch of laughs,
right?
For no reason.
It's totally silent, and then you're like, yeah. That's funny. I feel like that would make an interesting art form, though, where like players or listeners can then like create their own idea of what the other person is doing based on the reactions.
Yeah, if you can add that under the Steam umbrella, you know.
Right. Of course. No, I do think that's interesting. The funny thing, like if we were to seriously do some sort of thing where, like let's say we had a Patreon set up and, there were, rewards that you got for subscribing at, $5 a month or whatever. What do you guys think we would actually do as like bonus content?
I want you guys to record more dinners with Anita and Damien. That's what I want. Is like side quests that you then get to hear them going off on their lives.
Just bullshit filler.
Yeah, but hilarious bullshit filler.
So that actually, it does sound kind of like an idea that I had back during the Curse of Strahd campaign, where I had mentioned at one point that it would be kind of funny to just have like sessions or like mini sessions where it's just conversations with our characters, where we're like sitting around a campfire, just like talking about whatever. The idea was that like if Duncan wasn't available to run a session, or if one of us was going to be out or something, then two of the characters could just like hang out and talk about stuff, either about like things they've done in the past or musings on what's going on, where it's our characters talking and not just us talking about it like table talk. We never ended up doing any because I think we all forgot or people weren't actually interested or whatever. But that would be that sort of sounds like a serious version of that.
Yeah, the Patreon recording is after this dinner. It's then Simon and Tim arguing about everything going like being chaotic, and then also having to confront his brother about like, we're not a couple, stop it.
Yeah,
that's what I would pay to listen to.
Which Simon again just is not. He doesn't understand that
Still
his brother
hasn't
thinks. Yeah, they're just talking past each other.
And every time that he like denies it, he's like, "Oh, he's just in the closet still. It's okay." And, like,
right, he doesn't even know himself.
Supportive. Right.
Yeah. And then when Damien says that they ended up divorcing over this, and then Simon's like, "What are you talking about?" But yeah, I felt a lot of sympathy for the Anita character.
Yeah, for sure.
Things are not going her way.
You while you're trying to cook. Is the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster still like a thing? I feel like I haven't heard about that in a long time.
So I don't know anything about it other than like
it's
like
just to
I've
make
obviously
fun of
heard
people.
of it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know that, but like in terms of like, I assume they don't meet. Right, that would be kind of weird.
No, but I think, I mean, it was I want to say this is early 2000s. But part of the point was to, I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out how to express this, but it was like to point out some of the silliness that was going on with respect to religious freedom and stuff like that. Like, so people were getting driver's license photos taken wearing colanders on their heads. You know, things like that to show that, okay, like if you can just say anything, if you can make any silly claim and, you know, have it taken seriously by the state, then I should be able to do this. You know, those kinds of things.
I think it, and I'd have to look it up to see if this is true, but I believe a big part of its creation was schools that were trying to get creationism taught alongside evolution, you know, like give them equal time.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like,
they wanted like a Pastafarian curriculum.
Just to point out that it's ridiculous that it's like there's no if there's no scientific basis, why are we teaching it in school?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on their website right now. I'm just looking. Yeah, so some of their like featured posts are like a Pastafarian minister who was set free. He was imprisoned, looks like in Russia. So I think you're right, where they're like trying to champion like, or you know, there's some freedom of speech stuff in there. I think there's some freedom of religion kind of stuff, and then obviously poking fun at, you know, some of the ideas put forth by some of these faith groups.
But I mean, I think it's similar to some of the stuff that the Satanic Temple does now.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, like, you know, oh, okay, if schools are going to host like after school events that are religious, then, you know, the Satanic Temple is going to put one on that has to do with Satan. You know, stuff like that to point out the inappropriateness of some of this stuff.
I'm gonna start getting put on lists as I go to these websites, but I'm now on the Satanic Temple website.
Yeah, well, I think that's
you know,
well
bearing
known.
in mind that the Satanic Temple is not the same as the Church of Satan.
Yep.
Right, yeah. Let's see.
Well, like the Satanic Temple is very memey.
Yeah, the Church of Satan seems like they actually mean it. Kind of.
I think the Church of Satan worships Satan, whereas the Satanic Temple, I think it's more of it's countercultural.
Yes.
Yeah.
Satan is a sort of, he's an emblem. It's not a genuine religious organization.
Right. So just the Wikipedia article, which I don't know how true it is versus like an actual believer, but Church of Satan members do not believe that Satan literally exists and do not worship him. Instead, he's viewed as a positive archetype, embracing the idea of the adversary. Okay, sure.
There you go.
But it seems like
that's not what I thought.
Yeah, because the Satanic Temple seems like that's more of an activist type thing.
Yeah. Yeah, looking at their site right now, it looks like their main thing is the abortion issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I know a couple of years ago there was the Texas abortion law, and I think the Satanic Temple did something along the lines of, I think they were saying, you know, to them, like, performing an abortion as a religious right. So does that mean you have to allow it under a religious freedom? Like, where can you throw that flag?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's exactly what they're doing. It's a religious ceremony, and
right, to sacrifice a fetus. So
they have a clinic that they opened up specifically for that.
Yeah, After School Satan exists to provide a safe and inclusive alternative to the religious clubs that use threats. It's ASSC because I think it's the Ass Club.
Nice.
That use threats of eternal damnation to convert school children to their belief system. So, yeah, those are like the main three campaigns I have right now are After School Satan Club, Religious Reproductive Rights, and Protect Children Project.
And then something I've seen, although I don't know how much of their time is spent on this, is public monuments, like religious stuff, Ten Commandments stuff. They've tried to get statues of like Baphomet installed.
That'd be pretty baller, honestly.
Didn't they get one in Florida or Alabama or somewhere down south?
I don't remember, but I think
they did.
I thought it was a case where they said, you know, okay, you don't have to take this other thing down, but if you're allowed to have that up, we're allowed to put this thing up.
I'll just look it up. Statue of Baphomet. Let's see. Where is it? Oklahoma State Capitol was the intended destination.
Yeah, and there's one in Detroit.
Yeah.
And Arkansas. Oh, yeah, the Arkansas one was the Ten Commandments. I remember that one now.
Yeah, State Capitol Grounds, Oklahoma, Arkansas. Yeah, I think that's it.
Speaking of just satanic type statues, did you guys ever hear the story about this was like 1800s, I think? There was a place that commissioned a statue. It was a church that commissioned a statue of Satan. But it was like too sexy. The statue they got was too sexy, and it was distracting people.
Yes,
so they commissioned another statue. They got another guy, and they were like, "Listen, we need a statue that is not this."
Turn it down.
And then they apparently the second statue was even sexier, and just it was the same problem. I gotta find this story.
Are you gonna Google
see these
sexy
statues.
Satan statue?
Sexy Satan statue.
Oh, nope, I got it. I'll put the link in the chat as well. It's called You Sexy Devil. It's a good name for the article.
Well, I think that's a funny thing to, like, you know, give as a project to an artist of, like, hey, make this thing, you know, unappealing. And it's like, you know, I'm an artist. I want to make something that's, you know, I want to make something that's beautiful when I make a statue.
I don't know. It's not always about being
pretty
beautiful.
cute.
They're just very nice statues. I like both of them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's good stuff.
yeah. So, do any of these kinds of things exist in Golden River then?
Yeah, the road is just flanked by Baphomet statues.
Yeah.
It's probably really upsetting to people like Anita.
Yeah.
She spends her, free time outside of church protesting outside the statues.
Even better. So the two statue stonemasons, I guess. What do you call somebody who works with? What do you call a statue
apprentice?
maker?
A sculptor.
A sculptor. That's it. Yeah, but they were brothers, I guess. So they got one guy. He made a sexy statue. They went to his brother, and he made a sexier statue.
Yes.
I just want to know how that conversation went down.
Well, I figured
Like,
that's probably like, if that happened and I was the first brother, I would have gone like, hey, listen, it'd be really funny if you just made it even hotter.
Yeah.
Pretty nice, though. I should get one of these for my apartment.
100%. Yeah. Just
I mean, maybe you
all over
could
the
get
place.
those specific statues, you know, if they're too sexy to put up in church.
I'm sure they're not that heavy. You can just go pick them up and
But yeah, for sure.
it's fine.
So,
Some poor Amazon Prime delivery driver is going to have to wrestle that, you know, up to your
in
place.
between peeing in a bottle, he's gonna go.
looking around, it looks like that Baphomet statue isn't like permanently housed anywhere. Like it moves around, and like whenever they're gonna protest, they'll bust it
Like
out.
all on its own.
Exactly. Yeah, it's autonomous.
I like that it's
goes
made of
wherever it's
bronze.
summoned.
It just shows up.
God, that thing looks so cool. It's awesome. It weighs 3,000 pounds.
Easy.
God.
Easy.
Oh, yeah. I've heard good things about the Church of Satan, or the Satanic Temple. God, see,
You don't know
that's-
what's going on.
That's a real branding issue they have. So it would really suck if it turned out they were awful. Like that would make me sad.
I mean, yes, it would also make me very sad, but I don't think that they are.
I do think this is a case, though, of constructive trolling.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't remember who I was having
Me.
this conversation with before. Oh, you.
Me.
Yeah. Where I'm genuinely, unironically pro troll. I think cases like this, it's like they're fucking with people, and there's a point to it.
Yes. The distinction is the constructive rather than destructive.
There should be a point to it. If the goal is to help and you're using it just to point out the absurdity of some established belief or practice, I think it's fine. If you're doing it just to piss people off for the sake of pissing people off, that's when it's a problem.
But I think, I think that's impossibly subjective.
Sure. But many
of
things
course,
are.
many people.
Yeah.
Right. I still value what they're doing, but it's also crystal clear that from probably a more popular point of view, what they're doing is evil and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that is destructive. Like it's corrosive to morality or the fabric of society or whatever. So I don't know. I appreciate it for being like intended to point out inconsistency.
I think that the destructive point is that it is not making a point, and so it's not moving a conversation forward. It's not moving anything. It's just sort of keeping somebody trapped in a rage circle and isn't helpful or doing anything. That's the deconstructive piece that I think of.
Are you saying
that? I mean, are they?
Satanic Temple
do we
isn't
really
doing
think
anything?
they're changing? Go ahead.
Sorry, I was asking. Are you saying that the Satanic Church doesn't have a point to what they're doing?
No,
or
not
that they're
talking
being
about
ineffective?
them. No, I'm not talking about them at all. I was talking about like we were talking about this from a like trolling individuals. Like if you're having a conversation and just being a troll and you're not trying to make a point or you're not trying to like move the conversation forward, you're just being a dick. That's not helpful trolling.
Okay. Yeah,
that's
I
the
understand.
piece that I don't like. Organizations like this who are trolling, they're making a point. Now, you could be mad about it, but you're still making a point. That's still constructive.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
But-
Duncan, I cut you off. You were saying something.
Oh, I don't remember what I was saying.
That whole journey
Yeah,
took us
I mean-
hours.
It's definitely a nuanced issue. But yeah, I think broadly I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was, I'm always looking at our, our YouTube channel and, trying to see if we're getting any comments. We're not. No one has trolled us yet that I'm aware of, which is if no one's trolling you, you haven't made it.
And we will never turn off comments. We're not going to run and hide.
Yeah, I don't picture us doing that. I don't know. I'm not gonna say never because it's possible that there's some situation that will arise that compels us to.
Well, I'm going to say never.
Yeah.
As the person who actually controls it, we'll see.
Trolls, you're welcome here as long as you subscribe.
Yeah.
Boost those numbers. You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just need to get those numbers up.
The numbers have really slowed down. We haven't gotten any new
Also-
subscribers in the last several months.
Just one last kind of principled point, which is trolling is pretty funny when it's not directed at me.
That is very principled.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it when my actions have consequences.
Yeah, but just for consistency's sake, I want to put it out there that I pretty consistently do not appreciate me being trolled, but I'm fine when it goes the other way.
Yeah, well, that's the Caleb, right?
Yeah.
Funny as shit, but not about me.
But not about me.
Some of the best performance art that's ever existed.
Yes.
I think, have we talked about that before?
I don't know what this is.
So there's this YouTuber, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Haver. It's Haver.
Oh, Joel. Okay, yeah.
Joel, yeah. And he, does a lot of skits and makes these interesting, independent movies and stuff like that with his friends. And this must have been, I don't know, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. He put up a really long video. And it's this long, what looks like, mostly improvised sketch that's probably 4 hours long. Where he is a streamer streaming a speed run of Dark Souls.
Oh, you guys have talked about this. I have not watched this.
And having like a series of in-person and phone conversations along the way that just reveal this incredibly depressing life.
Well, yeah, because his character is like this like small town, never been anywhere, not going anywhere, kind of like flatlining young man, who like thinks very highly of himself and he's always got excuses for why everything's not his fault and like why he's a really hard worker and he's smart and funny. But
he's like, the funny thing is he's not like a lovable underdog. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's super mean to his friends.
He's like not likable.
Yeah.
It is a genuinely brilliant video. It is the weirdest bit of art.
Yeah, and he goes straight for it's like 4 hours long, or 3. It's pretty long. And then there's a sequel where he's just playing Elden Ring like shortly after it came out, same character. But he'd been kicked out of his mom's house, and so he's playing it at his friend's house.
Also fantastic. We'll have to post that link, but it is a really interesting couple of videos.
Yeah, if you look up Caleb Plays in YouTube, it should come up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's genius. I think I've watched it like 3 times. The Dark Souls 3 speedrun one. It's very, very funny.
Oh yeah, and getting back with my ex, kicked out of my mom's place.
So Caleb has, I think, 2 other videos that Joel had put out beforehand that are like shorter and they're more like his skits. But I think he found the character compelling and thought this would be a funny like way to bring that character back.
This is confronting my middle school bully / my ex-girlfriend's new lover.
Right, yeah. And it's all like just like this small town trash kind of characters.
It's very cringy.
Well, and then the other Caleb video is him paying people on Fiverr to write a breakup note for him to use to break up with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
It's something else.
Yeah. It's brilliant.
I'm not gonna be able to do it. I can't do cringe.
What was the?
It's not quite cringe, I would say.
The Todd Margaret stuff.
That's cringe.
That's hard to watch.
The increasingly, what is it?
Increasingly poor
decisions
Of Todd Martin.
of Todd Margaret.
That sounds right.
So I can't remember when this. I think this was like
increasingly
shortly
poor
after
decisions.
Arrested Development.
2010.
Because it's a couple of the same actors. It's like David Cross and Will Arnett. This was the whole series. You're like watching it through your fingers. I've never cringed in such a sustained and uncomfortable way.
It is genius. Like it's so hard to watch.
It's very hard to, especially because he keeps repeating things, and you can see him go down these lines. You're like, why do you keep saying that?
Right, because like every new lie that he invents, he like incorporates it into like how he greets people.
Right, he like stacks it on top of the old ones that you already know, and it's just very deeply uncomfortable.
My name's Todd.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. At one point, he's pretending to be deaf.
But he, for some reason, thinks that like he's acting like he's mentally disabled.
Oh no!
I'll rewatch that at one point. Yeah, it is deeply uncomfortable. It's a really good series.
I think I would rather watch the horror movies you told me to watch.
Oh yeah, how's that been going?
I have not.
Okay.
Which films are these?
Let's see.
Well, there are a couple of us, a couple of people in our group of friends that are really into watching horror movies, around this time of year, which is, around Halloween, for those of you who are not listening to this, when it comes out. And I do recommend that you listen to these episodes several times and download them on as many devices as you can.
Absolutely.
There are a few of us that like to watch horror movies throughout the season. And actually, one of the things on my to-do list for this weekend is to sit down, go through the stuff I've seen, and put together a list of my favorite horror movies. But
Oh God.
we've been exchanging recommendations, and actually, the best one I've seen recently, Jesse's husband recommended.
Terrifying. Just reading the Wikipedia was awful.
It's really, really good. Hereditary.
Oh yeah,
Which I
saw
had
you
heard
talking
was
about
good.
this.
I'd heard it was great, and I just hadn't seen it. I think it came out in 2018 or something, so it's fairly recent. But
No, I'm trying to work myself up to watch the Blair Witch Project, but I'm afraid it's gonna ruin camping for me, so I'm putting it off.
Well,
I love the Blair Witch Project.
Shepard was, this was, last year, was over at my place for a while, and we watched The Haunting of Hill House, which is,
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
it was really good.
The music's great. I've listened to that.
Yep, music is good. I have not seen the second one, but I've heard that it's good.
Which is the one with the girl with the bent neck?
That's Hill House.
Yeah.
Okay. I accidentally spoiled that for myself, and
Ah, that sucks. Well, don't
Just-
talk about it.
just knowing that part was enough to be like, nope, hard pass.
Oh, my favorite thing about that trip, or the jack leg of that trip, was we installed a new TV at your place,
Sure did.
and I'm just not at all confident that thing is gonna that the way we mounted it is gonna stand the test of time.
Hey, it's still, it's fine.
Because it was like a big
now.
TV, isn't it? Like a 65 inch or something.
It's a pretty fucking big TV.
So, and we replaced it was like a 40-inch TV or something. It was pretty small. Mm-hmm. And like, we found the studs and, put the screws into it. Like, it's, in theory, it's fine. It's just didn't
a very
feel
big TV.
great. Yeah. I never mount TVs for the most part. I always just have them stand on my entertainment system. But I don't know. I'm not super confident long term.
Oh, ye of little faith.
So for all the kids out there, once upon a time when I was a kid, big TVs were, relatively small from a screen standpoint, but they were fucking deep. They were very heavy, and so people would put them in the corners of rooms because, if you had like a 30-inch TV, it would be as deep as it was wide.
Yeah. Like a box.
The best part about old TVs,
Yeah.
moving them up and down stairs.
Yes.
No, the best part-
the big risk of just being crushed to death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you get done with them and you toss them or you like push them off of a roof into a dumpster and it explodes. That was satisfying.
With the vacuum tubes.
Yeah, but it was crazy. I
Or
remember
the
when I was
cathode ray
younger.
tubes, sorry.
Yeah. Like the really big ones would be like, it would take up the entire corner of the room, and it would be like a 40-inch TV. And of course, it's not a flat screen either.
And it's a 40-inch TV that you need to look at pretty dead on.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
In
It's,
the dark.
Yeah, and like that was, you'd go over to your friend's house, and that's what they had in the corner. You're like, whoa, like they've got the biggest TV in the world. And the entire apparatus was indeed pretty large, but the actual like screen,
The bezels
not
were
that big.
enormous.
Right, yeah, the frame on the outside was huge, and it was also so expensive. Like getting a big TV, like that was like thousands of dollars. And now you can go to Walmart and pick up like a 45-inch 4K TV for like $300. Like they cost.
Yeah, I
nothing.
mean, we're also at a point now where, and I don't have a TV. I just have a big computer monitor, but it's gotten so good that obsolescence is less of a big deal now. I mean, like if you bought a really nice TV 5 years ago, that's still pretty great. That's still a pretty great TV.
I think yes and no. The yes part is like the display itself and how well it works. Like those last a long time. If you're using the smart TV functionality of it, those are so poorly made and like have such small like computing power that like that will like get slow and almost useless pretty quickly. But if you're using external devices like an Apple TV or a PlayStation or some other device, then that goes away.
Yeah.
I hate smart TVs.
I also hate smart TVs.
I wish,
But I mean,
I
smart
wish they'd just
TVs
get a
are
dumb
like
TV.
car infotainment. That's not the Apple or Android things. It's if it's the Honda or the Toyota or whatever, like, interface.
Whenever I see a car that's like, we don't support Android Auto, that's like, okay, I would not ever buy that car.
Right.
The problem is, I was watching a video that had this in it recently. I don't remember what the subject was, but it was just about like crappy technology, where I think it's getting better. But there was a time where you would have those touchscreen displays in your car that started controlling a lot of stuff that would normally be controlled by knobs and buttons. But it was
Tesla does this a lot.
It was so slow and unresponsive, and like it required a little more attention because you couldn't do it by feel anymore. That like there's an argument that it was like a safety hazard, where if you're trying to turn down the AC or something like that, like you have to click several buttons to get there, but it's on a touchscreen, so you have to look at the screen instead of just reaching over, finding the knob with your hand and turning it while never losing attention of the road. Like I said, I think it's gotten better. Like the stuff is more responsive, but I don't know. I drive a 2012 car that doesn't have any of this stuff, and I don't miss it for the most part.
I think one of the ways that Tesla does it that helps with that is that it does like the over-the-air updates. And so it's not going to sort of age out, and it'll also be able to fix those bugs so it's not going to like lag and be that specific safety issue. And you can also just tell it to change the temperature. You don't have to actually touch any buttons, which is nice.
Yeah, that's just the kind of, to me, it's a problem that isn't a problem. Like we're providing a solution to something that didn't need solving. Like the knobs that control my AC and my fan speed in my car. That's pretty optimal. Like, I don't know. I don't look at that and go like, wow, I wish something was better about this. And there are other things that I do wish I had a little better, like the music control in my car kind of sucks. And like that, I could see benefiting from the touchscreen and all that. I can see that. But the air control knobs, that was basically perfect and required no adjusting. In my personal opinion, obviously, tastes are different all around, but I don't see moving that to a touchscreen apparatus as an improvement.
Well, you gotta come ride in my car because you can adjust the airflow by person, and it's awesome.
I think this is something I like about Mini Coopers, is they're still pretty tactile. They have a lot of like switches and knobs.
Well, I think a lot of luxury brands are still like that too, where there is like, your touchscreen, it's got the sat nav or whatever in it, but it still has like nice knobs and buttons and switches and stuff that control more than they control the physical things of the vehicle, like the air. I don't drive luxury cars though, so I can't confirm that this is the case.
I want a car that I don't even want a steering wheel. I want everything to be voice commands.
Turn left 15 degrees. Yeah.
Turn right now.
No, I just wanted to drive on its own. I don't want to have to do anything.
Yeah. So has there been any real progress on that? I haven't looked into it in a while.
I'm not sure. Like anything in between, like I'm doing all of the work and it's doing literally everything and I don't have to pay attention to it is terrifying. Pretty useless to me.
Yeah.
Because I would love it if I could, be in the back seat of my car and read a book instead of driving. And like it would drive me. I'm fine with that. Like, not a big deal. Anything that requires me to be in the driver's seat anyway while the car is driving is useless. Because I have no problem driving. I think I'm, pretty good at it, and it doesn't require a ton of my attention to do so safely.
I don't know. Right now, I drive an older car. I'm in like the worst possible place from an infotainment standpoint because it's a 2014 model where I have like a shitty capacitive. What was the older touchscreen model? So it's a small screen with a huge bezel. It doesn't work very well. But from a functionality standpoint, my car has a manual transmission, which I like. But it can't stay in its own lane. It can't. It doesn't have like adaptive cruise control or things like that. So,
that's the best.
When I do things like go on road trips, or if I'm like driving out to visit a friend, or if I'm going on a camping trip or something like that. It's really nice if I'm trying to cover a lot of distance in a day to have a car that will handle itself a little better, or at least give me alerts. Like something that's going to stay in the lane by itself, something that will vibrate or alarm if it thinks I'm about to do something dangerous. I just don't have any protection right now, and so I more and more see the value and stuff like that.
It's funny, I actually was paying more attention when I was able to put the lane keeping on and the adaptive cruise control, because then I wasn't specifically like focused on like my speed and things like that, and I could actually like watch the cars coming around me and things like that. And so I actually found the driving experience for like long drives in my Tesla to be like a more positive and more aware experience, which is pretty cool.
I still lack the faith, and I think this is something Jack was alluding to earlier. I don't trust that the car at this point in time is better at staying in the lane than I am.
It's pretty good.
And again, I have not driven a car that can do that. I rented a car that had these features and like used them for 5 seconds and then decided I wasn't comfortable with it. So it's entirely possible that it's gotten good and my fears are unfounded, but I don't know.
Some of the older ones or the other models are not actually meant to specifically drive and steer for you. They're meant to just stop you from going over the line.
They should probably stop calling it full self-driving then.
Right. And so those, that's
There's just
annoying.
400 asterisks behind it. Yeah.
But you put that on the Tesla and it's great.
Yeah, but and that's the thing right now. If the car gets to the point where it can drive better than me, okay, that's great. But I don't at present. I don't need assistance like parallel parking. I don't even have a backup camera in my car. It's never been a problem for me. It's I don't struggle with any of the tasks that these cars are now able to do semi-autonomously. So I don't benefit from their assistance yet. Until it gets to the point where I don't have to even sit in the front seat anymore, I don't care about any of those features. That's where I stand on it.
Oh, also, because I don't have depth perception. Depth perception really only affects you fairly close, so I can't see I can't tell how close I am to the things at the end of the car. So the distance to the wall and stuff, that feature is amazing.
Sure.
It makes,
yeah, if you don't have depth perception, that's an entirely different story.
Yeah, it was a really nice change when I got that. I stopped parking 6 feet away from the wall and had to inch closer and then get out and look.
Yeah, I do think I've been driving the same car for so long that whenever I get a new car, I'll have to adjust a little bit to how deep I'm parking. Because I drive a Honda Civic, which is not a very long car, so I don't have to worry about I'm not driving a F-350 that's very long, and I might bump into something if I'm not paying attention when I'm backing into a parking spot or something.
So kids, the way we used to do this is if you had a really tight garage or something like that, you would hang a ping pong ball from the ceiling with a piece of string.
Or a tennis ball. And then you knew that once the tennis ball was touching the windshield, that was that's the point you had measured. That's where you stopped the car.
I love analog solutions like that.
Yeah.
It's just something so satisfying about it.
That assumes that you don't have a bunch of shit in your garage that keeps you from actually parking in your garage.
But a lot of people had garages that were built in a period where cars were smaller, and then decades later got SUVs.
Right, that are 4 feet taller than the cars they were driving before.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've got a garage for the first time, actually, in my adult life. I'm realizing now this is the first time I've had a garage. And for the first couple days that I lived here, I was parking my car in the garage, but it's the narrowest garage ever. My Honda Civic, I'm almost hitting the mirrors when I come into this thing. And so I very quickly just stopped parking in it, and I just use it for storage now. also sitting in that garage is the desk that broke during the move. That it served me faithfully for about 4 years, but it didn't survive the trip. So then I ordered the same desk that you got, Duncan, and I'm using that right now.
Did you get a salt lamp to go with it?
I didn't. Not yet.
It's not complete then.
How do you think I haven't gotten COVID yet?
Right.
It's because the air in my place is constantly being cleaned by the salt lamp.
True. You know, I had to go to the hospital for an appointment the other day, and I hadn't been to a hospital in a long time, and I was like, are we still wearing masks? Like, I don't know what the rules for like health organizations are. The answer was no, they weren't wearing masks. So, COVID is well and truly dead forever. I'm calling it right now.
Bold statement.
I have not kept up with COVID at all, so I don't know what the state of the world right now is.
I mean, it'll be interesting as we move into flu season. This really being the first post-COVID flu season, what that's going to look like. You know, because of course COVID is still out there, and in fact we know people in the server who just recently got COVID and got over it. But what I had heard people saying for a while was, hey, this is probably it's kind of like another flu. It's just something that we're going to have to contend with each year.
Right.
So, I don't know. That'll be interesting. Because, like, the flu, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've had the flu. I don't know how long that normally takes you out for.
At least a few days.
Well, it's also entirely possible that you've never actually had influenza, and that you had rhinovirus instead.
Sure. But I guess my point is, with the flu, or you know, whatever it is that people get when they think they have the flu, you feel like shit, you stay home, you come back when you feel better. With COVID, we have a much more formalized, you know, you get tested, you come back this many days after, that kind of thing. You know, it's more like systematic.
Right.
And so, I don't know, it's just different. When you think you have the flu, you don't test yourself to see if you have the flu. You feel like shit and you stay home.
Sure.
We'll probably get there the same thing. Just be, hey, I'm sick.
Yeah.
But that's a guess. Who knows?
Yeah. We'll see. But I wonder, like, I work in an office. I wonder if, you know, guidelines will be published by my company where they say, okay, here's how we're handling, you know, people getting sick over the like winter period.
Doubtful. I'll bet you, I don't know, soda. Something that is free in our office. And if they don't publish anything, you owe me.
Wow. What a deal.
Yeah, I mean,
The stakes
I
are
don't know
high.
if I can handle these stakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, where I worked during COVID, there was a like dedicated group of people, a handful of people that if you were symptomatic or if you got a positive test or anything like that, or if you were a close contact, like they were the ones who kept track of all that. You would email them and say, okay, I was a close contact of someone who tested positive yesterday. I took a test and it's negative. What do I do? And they had the current policy in front of them that said, okay, here's the deal. Work from home until further notice, you know, that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, well, I remember what you were talking about made me laugh at the time because it seemed like they were really disincentivizing getting the vaccine for you guys, at least from like a policy perspective, to say nothing of like any health
If you got
concerns.
sick and you didn't have the vaccine, you got to stay home.
Right.
Right, so when I started here, or I guess this was, I'd been here for a little while. You know, by that point, anyone who wanted to be vaccinated
Or
was
it was the
vaccinated.
booster, not the vaccine, I think, at the time.
It was the booster, yeah. And so they put out a policy saying, okay, now that the booster is widely available, the deal is if you are a close contact, if you're boosted, you know, no big deal, business as usual, monitor for symptoms. If you're not boosted, then like we treat you as a positive case. I think maybe until, you got a few days worth of like successive negative tests or something like that. And so they would send you home. And so at the time I was thinking like, well, pretty good deal to not be boosted.
Right.
As someone in a demographic where like I'm fortunate in that I was not worried about my own safety. I was not concerned that I was going to be killed by COVID.
Right.
No, I did ultimately get boosted because I was actually there was a period where I was very busy at work. I had a lot of stuff to do and I had a vacation coming up, and somebody tested I was a close contact of someone who tested positive, and it like fucked up my whole week because I had to stay home, and I like got boosted shortly thereafter because to avoid the inconvenience.
Yeah. What was interesting to me with the booster was like, depending on where you're at, there was limited availability of, certain, whatever injections there were. Where I was at, they had a really big push for the initial vaccine series and then the first booster, where like at a certain point, if you didn't get the booster, the first booster, then you weren't considered fully vaccinated anymore. And so like, rules would change for whatever. But then, after that, there were more boosters coming out, but like no one cared. Like as long as you'd gotten the first booster, even if it was like a year ago, they're like, yeah, you're still fully vaccinated. It's like, well, are we making this like a principled decision of like, we're saying everyone's safe now? Because that's not what anyone is saying about how these things work, like the vaccine series. So like, why? I wasn't particularly eager one way or another, like didn't really care, but it just seemed like they were just kind of randomly making a decision and it wasn't deliberate.
And I don't want this to turn into like a, politics of COVID podcast, but I mean, throughout the pandemic, and this continues, policy has not really been firmly anchored to like what is efficacious or scientifically supportable. And that's obviously a very thorny and complicated issue. But, I think a lot of it is just people trying to check boxes, even if those boxes don't really make any sense.
Yeah. No, it was funny just looking at it just from like a fairly disinterested point of view of like, all right, guys, what's the decision and why?
Right. Yeah. Well, and I mean, back to my question about what's this flu season going to look like. Normally what I'm used to is it's a good idea to get the flu shot, and they're easy to get if you want one, but you don't have to.
Yeah, I suspect there's going to be social pressure in a way that there has not been previously.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. With respect to, maybe every year getting the COVID shot. Mm-hmm. Where, I mean, and in some jobs, like, you're required to get the flu vaccine and stuff like that. Where I work now, that's not the case. It's just,
They make it as easy as humanly possible.
They make it extremely easy, and it's generally a good idea.
Yeah, flu shots are interesting. When I was a kid, like, it was something I had heard of, but I had never gotten one. But then once I moved out, like, I am now in a profession that requires me to get it, but, like, even just talking to other people who are, don't have the same job that I do, or are family members or whatever, like, they all take it as a matter of course, like, oh yeah, of course I'm getting the flu shot this year. And it was just something that, since growing up, it just hadn't been a part of my life. I still carry this idea that it, like, doesn't really matter, and I don't really care. But I feel like I was probably in the minority growing up with it just not being a part of what goes on in my life during that time of year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got the flu several years ago, and it was way worse for me than when I got COVID. It was probably the most like I've gotten. And now I'm like, I'm going to get the flu shot because I don't want to get as sick as that ever again. It was awful.
Yeah, I very rarely react much to shots. Yeah, like I know people who, when they get the flu shot, or when they get the COVID vaccine or the booster, it knocked them out for a day or so, or they just felt shitty for a while. I very rarely have that problem, so but I also don't really care. So if I'm in a situation where the shot's like right in front of me, I'll take it. But if I'm not, I will likely forget about it. Probably doesn't matter either way.
The only time I've ever gotten like a bad reaction to a shot was the COVID vaccine. So I got the Pfizer one, or not the Pfizer. I got the whatever the one shot one was. Was that
Johnson & Johnson?
Johnson, yeah. Where like flu shots never had a bad reaction. Like any other shots, like my arm might be like a little sore or something, but that's about it. The Johnson & Johnson one, it became available in my area, and like me and a lot of people from my office like all went at the same time to go get it. And like we had heard some other people say like, oh yeah, it kind of sucks. We're like, yeah, it's probably not a big deal. The next day I was like the only one who showed up to work, and I felt terrible. And like most people just like hadn't showed up. They'd all called in sick, and like I showed up to work because I didn't want to be like a scumbag and not show up. And then when I realized that everyone else just hadn't come, I was like, all right, I'm going home. Like I feel terrible. I had like just like fever, cold sweats. I barely slept, normal stuff. But I don't get sick very often. So when I do, I turn into a huge baby. Mm-hmm. And this was definitely one of those times. I was like, yeah, I'm going home. I'm not doing this today.
Other than the left side of my face drooping, I felt pretty good.
Yeah, but that's been going on for a while, right? And that's just a little more of the same.
Yeah, it's that and like mild arrhythmia.
It's fine.
That's fine.
You don't need that to survive.
Speaking of arrhythmia, I've probably talked about this before, but I don't know if I have on the podcast. I pay very close attention to my heartbeat. Like I listen to it throughout the day, and I'm just, I'm aware of it most of the time. And a couple years ago, I was getting in really good shape, and my heart rate was going down, so I was paying extra close attention to it. So doing a lot of running and like breathing stuff and whatever, I'd gotten my abnormally high heart rate down to like a normal area after I'd been doing like a year of pretty serious running. But anyway, I was over at a friend's house. We were like around a campfire, just like talking, hanging out. And I noticed at one point my heart had stopped beating for like, it felt like a very long time. It was probably like 2 or 3 seconds, but no heartbeat. And I was like in the middle of talking, I just stopped. I was like, oh my God, my heart just stopped. And then my heart just went like, dut, 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 and then just went back to beating normally.
That's terrifying.
And I was like, I looked like a crazy person because I was in the middle of talking. I just like stopped, and then I like put my fingers on my throat and then like put my hand over my heart, and they're like, what are you doing? I was like, my heart stopped beating for like a couple seconds, and they thought I was just crazy, obviously. But I looked it up, and apparently like if that happens like every day, that's a problem. But apparently that kind of thing does happen every once in a while to people who are healthy. And it's not a concern unless it happens like, with any frequency, which it's only happened once that I can, remember. But it was really weird, and I was mildly concerned for a moment.
Just for a moment.
It's been fine ever since. So, if it starts happening once a month, I'll go tell somebody about it. But
what you don't know is you died that day.
Oh my! A new shepherd was born in his place.
You're a ghost.
You're in hell.
Oh well, that makes sense.
That tracks.
Well, I'm a subscriber of the belief that every time you go to sleep, you die.
You die. Yep.
Yeah, and there's a new version of you that wakes up the next day that has all your memories, and so doesn't know that it's a brand new life. So, I'm gonna.
That's kind of true in a sense.
I don't know that I agree.
But this suggests that the conscious experience will end as soon as you fall asleep, and so, I won't be around to experience tomorrow. The new shepherd that is none the wiser will be. So what I'm saying is I'm going to cherish this day. I might take a nap in the middle of it.
Isn't that kind of like committing suicide, though?
You're catching on.
I used to have like a recurring like fear right before I went to sleep that I was gonna like not like die in my sleep, and so then I would like stay awake for like hours, and then I would call my mom at like 1 o'clock in the morning, be like, Mom, I love you, And she's like, Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you?
This is the third time this month you've done this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're not going to die. Just go to sleep. And I was like, you don't know that.
Can you imagine if she said that and then you did die that night?
Horrifying. Yeah.
She would have felt pretty dumb.
Yeah, she would have, egg on her face, right? But I'll tell you what kept me up last night, Jack. This will probably surprise you pretty deeply.
The Roman Empire.
No, actually. I had started reading Worm again recently. And every time I read that, Jack, if you could throw that in the link, Tom.
This will be... I mean, so many times you put Worm in the link dump,
but every time I read it, I'll end up like spending more of my day reading it because it's so long, but it's so good that I'll end up like I'll spend hours a day reading it. And I normally don't forego sleep for anything, but that is one of the few things that when I'm reading it, I get so engrossed that I just stop paying attention to the time. And so after we were done playing Dark Souls yesterday, I was like, yeah, I'm going to bed. And then I got in bed. I was like, well, I can read a chapter of Worm before I go to bed. And before I knew it, I was 2 arcs deep. And
I haven't kept up with Wild Bow.
I haven't either, and I feel bad about it because I've read Worm. I think this is like my 5th time reading it. I've read it a bunch. I've never finished Pact. I never started Twig, and then I started Warden. Or Ward, I can't remember what it's called. But I started it when he was writing it, and so I like caught up, and then didn't ever get there. So it's something that I want to keep up with, because if his first story was that good, it's got to be amazing at this point.
Yeah, I think I loved Pact. And the current thing is a sequel series to Pact.
Okay, that's interesting. So, because after he was done with Twig, he wrote a sequel series to Worm.
Yeah.
So, and you said you really liked Twig, right?
Yeah, although I also never finished it.
Yeah. So, for those not in the know, which is probably everybody, so there's this online author. His name is John McCrae. His pen name is Wildbow. He started writing this, or like his first big project that saw some success was this story about superheroes that he was writing as a series of blog posts on his WordPress, and it got some attention on like online forums for like web fiction, and was pretty consistently for I don't know, like 2013 to 2015 or 16 or so was like the most popular web fiction series, and it's really good. It's super long. But that was like his first big project, and then he moved on to the other ones were Pact, Twig, Ward, and then whatever the new one is. And they're really good. He's a really good author, in my opinion. And it's like an interesting way of writing. But I fell in love with Worm, and I've read it many times, even though it's very, very long. So check it out. Link in the description.
Yeah.
Worm.
Oh, Worm.
This is probably the longest I've gone without reading it. Where, like, I haven't read it in a couple years, and normally I read it, like, no more than, like, once every... Or no more infrequent than once every 2 years or so, and I think it's been about 3. So, it's so good.
It's
believable
so
characters, realistic characters. That's what makes it for me. I really like the characters.
Yep. Yeah, there's an interesting thing that he does where there will be an arc, which the arcs are typically like each arc I would say is probably novella length, Yeah. But then after the arc, there will be an interlude, and the interlude, because the main story, you've got a protagonist, and it's written from that, like, you're following that character.
In a first-person perspective.
The interludes will take another character, and you'll get to, see what they're up to, and also it'll, discuss their thought processes, and you can kind of see what motivates them, what drives them, and with such a long series, you end up with a lot of interludes. The characters get very well fleshed out, which is fun.
Right, yeah, and you get an alternate perspective on something involving the protagonist a lot, so, since you're seeing it all from the first-person perspective of the protagonist in the main series, you get a pretty one-sided description of what's going on or interpretation of character action. And then, you'll have this interlude where, someone else on the outside has like a radically different interpretation of what's going on. That's not necessarily in conflict like with the facts, but their opinion of what's going on it makes it a lot more colorful, and can really help to remind you, of some of the flaws of what the main character is doing. And I think that's really interesting, but he does a really good job of telling an entire character story within one of those interludes that I think is super duper interesting. And he's really good about making characters distinct and different, which I think is very, very difficult to do. And so it's impressive that he can do it at such a scale. But enough about that. It's just really good. And I want to plug it.